We also got some newer skins here from Chem, showing off the new skins from the most recent war chest. As I say that, our Red Protoss, who did submit this replay, is Chem, also known as Richard. Excuse me, Simon. Mix up the names already. I was told there was a little bit of trash talk going on at the beginning of this game. Before we get to that, we will introduce our blue Terran player. It's Force. And yeah, he's throwing down the gauntlet, throwing out the trash talk. Saying he's not here to coddle him, he's here to destroy him. With that, he's throwing down, looks like he's going to throw down a second barracks here, so perhaps going for something aggressive is Force. With a double barracks opener, we'll take the gas, but slightly delayed by those barracks here, as Chem will send out a scout. He has added on a gateway and a simulator for himself. Pretty standard start, chrono boosting out some of those probes. And we'll get this information shortly, that there is a double barracks start here. Interesting way to wall off, but certainly not a bad way, I suppose, if you want to get those barracks out. And Chem will spot this here. He's already rallied his probe around. And he will spot the second barracks, and that will prompt him to add on a second gateway here as the first one completes, and we'll start the cyber core right on time. There's a second assimilator as well. So Chem gonna have to play this one safe. Seeing the aggression from Force will mean that he probably will delay his expansion here as Force chases Chem's probe with his SEV, menacingly running across the map all the way, just following him the entire time. Reactors being added on here for Force. This is double reactor play, 2 barracks going down with reactors, so this should be a lot of Marines coming up very shortly. We'll see if he adds on any more facilities here, as he's just got a SEV there standing there idly. Looks like it's going to be a couple stalkers out of the first gateways here for Chem, as we get a little SEV in the corner. Shh. Shh. Don't tell him. Don't tell him. He's hiding. Shield battery will add on at the front here. Chem very scared of this attack. He's sending a probe across again, trying to see if there's an expansion. Maybe he's just going to have it sit there and see if there is a move out from Force. He's actually going to be added on Reapers. He's got 6 Reapers queued up. 6 Reapers can do a lot of damage if they get in there and aren't spotted, so it's a good reason to send out this probe, but Reapers might be able to slip by. There's a slight gap in the vision here. Maybe you can fit them through there. And the Reapers will head out here. It's 4 of them right now, 2 more on their way, 3 more on their way. Looks like these Reapers will not slip by. It's going to be seen by Chem. And these Reapers will make their way across the map. They don't see the the probe in their way. They're just going to make their way across here. As the Stalker does find this SCV eventually, will shepherd it into the corner and make him explode. Some more Stalkers on the way. Looks like we're going to get 1 sentry here. Possible for some force fields to block out these Reapers here. 4 come in and 4 go out, as they are forced away by those Stalkers. Neither player expanding. Chem very scared, and looks like Force wants to get something done here with an aggressive attack. I can understand why you'd be scared, though, if you see double barracks to start it off here. Looks like the barracks will lift up and start 2 tech labs. Here, the reactor's sitting idly for now. Some more supply depots being added on here for Force, and a factory. So the first factory going to be added on as these Reapers continue to sit in the middle of the map. There's a lot of Stalkers here from Chem. He definitely wins a straight-up fight against these Reapers, but Reapers are very fast units and hard to catch. Robo facility going to be finished up here for Chem. We'll see what he makes out of that. Perhaps he'll go on the aggressive here, make a Warp Prism and start an attack of his own. Will be an Immortal and then an Observer queued up afterwards. Concussive Shell and a couple Marauders coming in here, but now Force is on the attack here. He's going to take out 1 probe. He's got a couple more, and the reaction isn't in here from Chem. He's got to move quickly. Another gate finishing up, but he's got to stop this attack now. The probes are moved away to try and save themselves. Looks like... oh, good grenades. They're going to bounce those Stalkers back, but Chem's still on the chase. Force is going to have to move out. Will lose 1. in the end. Another warp in here. Stalkers, and the probes will go back to mining, but a few lost there. 8 probes in total, and 2 Reapers went down in that attack. But this is a pretty strong army. Probes were killed, but Chem still has quite a few units. If he gets a warp prism here, or he just walks straight across the map, he could definitely do a lot of damage. And looks like we're going to get an engineering bay added on, and looks like a reactor out of the factory here. No starport, so no medevac. It's just going to be straight walking for these Marines and Reapers and Marauders. Actually, no Marines on the map yet. Just Marauders and Reapers. Who needs that dumb unit anyway? This observer will spot the move out. Gonna see these Reapers moving in again. Now they're gonna go ahead and look, get some more damage done. Again, both players still not expanded here. We're at 6 minutes, but neither wants to expand. Both being very aggressive in terms of the armies being built up here. The Stalkers will find the Reapers, and the Marauders there. Concussive shells really hurt those Stalkers' capability to kite. Another warp in here of Stalkers. Nothing can be made out of the Robo quite yet. Their player has a ton of resources right now. In terms of minerals, Marauders will go in, set it up, but now here comes the Immortal and the Stalkers. That's a bigger army from Chem. The Force Field's going to force a couple more in. Looks like Force is going to charge forward, but I think that's too many, buddy. You got to watch out here. You know, one fight there for Chem. That's a big fight. That takes out almost all of the army. There is a few units in production on the back and a starport being added on for Force, but he lost a large portion of his army there. 7 Reapers and 6 Marauders. A couple Stalkers and a Sentry have gone down, but definitely a win for Chem there. I think he's going to start up expansion as soon as he has the minerals here. A couple Marauders sitting in the middle of the map there. Just waiting, a couple at home. But both players, low on workers, low on economy, have not started expansions up here. Chem, I think he's wanting to at some point, but he hasn't quite yet. Another Twilight Council being added on now. He's got a Robo Bay as well. Looks like we're going to get maybe some Colossi, maybe some Disruptors. I'm not sure quite yet. Chem's still investing in tech, doesn't want to start the expansion quite yet. And an Observer out on the map, trying to see if there's an expansion, trying to see what's going on. We'll spot probably these Marauders at some point. More being added on here. And a Liberator as well, but has not moved across the map yet, I have to say that. He will take off. Another Liberator behind this. Neither player committing to an attack yet. I'm going to play this nice and slow. The Observer sitting at the 3rd. Liberator will siege up. I don't think you want to quite walk up this hill. A siege tank and a Liberator, it's pretty difficult, but charge being added on instead of blink. If he had blink, perhaps he could use this Observer to get to the high ground from here, and thus avoid this death zone, the no man's land of this ramp. But it is pretty difficult to do. Crossing the ground to that siege tank would be, it's quite a long ways, and you can't get your Immortals up there either unless you want to juggle them with a Warp Prism, which currently he does not have. So Chem, sitting at home, has added on his own expansion, so we'll have the lead in the economy here. He does have less workers, but he could make quite a few more when he's got those 2 Nexuses. Move out here from Force. He's got 2 siege tanks, a bunch of Marauders, and 2 Liberators. The Observer will spot this, though, and is sticking with the army, so Chem will know this is coming. Was smart enough to keep track of those with the Observer. Good heads-up play from him there. Charge about halfway done. Was a Chrono Boost invested into it. Robo has not been used for much as of yet. And now Chem long distance mining, so he doesn't oversaturate the space, I suppose. And the expansion will finish up here. Probably going to have a few more probes eventually here. The Liberator is sieging up. They did take some damage from the Stalkers while we were talking about production, but no scan coming in to get rid of this Observer as of yet. Doesn't have a ton of ton of stuff that shoots up. Just the Liberators, when they're on siege, can do that. Marauders will look in, but one already taken down. The siege tanks moving forward. They all unsiege at once, though. Now they're going to re-siege. One Marauder goes down. A second one. Charge in from the Zealot. He'll be cleaned up almost instantaneously, but 2 Marauders go down. Force has quite a few minerals banked up here. His production and expansions, or his lack of expansions, not actually able to use his minerals quite yet. Liberators are unsieging again. This is a slow, methodical attack here from Force. Unsieging and sieging, slowly moving forward. Stalkers and Immortals moving around here. No gases on the natural as of yet for Chem. They will find engagement, though. The Stalkers on one side, the Immortals on the other. Force is forced to move back here. The tanks are not sieged up. They're in a very bad position here. They're trying to kite back here. The Liberator unsiege as well. Will siege up now. The tanks unsiege still, though. Force will not take that fight. Decides to play it safe and move back here. Once those tanks get sieged, once those Liberators get sieged, it's very hard to move in there. As Force throws out the trash talk asking him if he's scared. I think he could have probably won that fight if he just A-moved forward. All he had to really do, in terms of micro, is probably target down the Liberator with the Stalkers and then move on to the tanks, but... Many games have been lost by walking into siege tanks, so I can respect that decision. Liberator now moving to the natural to siege up and try and kill some of these probes, but a quick pull by Chem. He's only going to lose 1, 2, maybe a third? The fourth, oh, he was so good. He got all the probes out from the mineral line, but there was a bunch, actually, there was 1 or 2 making these pylons over here, and those went back to the mineral line and got killed as a result. But good reactions from Chem. Siege up here, trying to kill these Stalkers on the high ground. And the Liberators are stuck between a rock and a hard place. A lot of gas banked up for Chem. He's making probes now, but he's not used his Robo Bay, has not invested into Blink on the Twilight Council yet. As we get our gases started up here at the natural. Force is still not expanded. He's a one-base Terran. He does not like to expand here. Now we get a fight between the two armies. The tanks are sieged up, and these Stalkers are taking a lot of damage. The Immortal's forced to run back. And 2 Stalkers go down with 1 shot from the siege tank after they're softened up. Engineering Bay has not really done much in production. A couple SCVs sitting idly after building their respective buildings. Reactors also sitting there unused. Shield battery being built here at the front of the natural. Gases have not been quite taken yet by Chem. But he's got a lot of Stalkers and Immortals. Some of the best, and a couple Zealots as well, so... some of the best A-moving units in the game. Now the Stalkers charge forward. The tanks here, they're doing a lot of damage, and Chem forced to move back here. He was very careful about the siege tanks earlier, but just gets caught a little bit unawares now. There are some Vikings, but there's nothing in the air for the Vikings to actually shoot at, so those aren't really too effective. More Zealots being added on. Siege tank in production as well as 2 Liberators for Force. Just an observer for Chem. Does have a Stargate, but hasn't built anything out of it quite yet. Might be dissuaded now that he sees Vikings on the field. 1 Stalker a little bit too far forward will go down. But a lot of these Marauders badly bruised, and there's no medevacs here to actually heal these guys up, so they're going to stay at that health until he can get one of those medevacs there. Siege tanks on the low ground, though. Clever little place for the siege tanks there from Force. The Zealots charge forward. The siege tanks, though, unhindered. No one trying to get onto them. And now the Immortals will clean up the ground army on the high ground, so he's going to have to scan to get vision of this. We'll see the Observer, so... now that he loses vision, though, the Force is in a bit of a tough spot. If Chem can charge forward and get onto those siege tanks without them knowing, he uses the Marauders for high vision again, but there's just not enough of them. He's probably going to have to pull back, and he does. There's more Liberators and Marauders coming across the map here for Force. Still no expansion. He doesn't want to take a second base. Why would you take a second base when you could end the game? That's what he intends to do, and Chem's still charging forward. He's going to kill 1 siege tank, 2 siege tanks. It looks like they will be all cleaned up here. There's not a ton of Stalkers, though, to deal with this Liberator. Liberator will take down 1, a second Stalker, and now there's just units that shoot down. They will kill the Marauder, but now Chem has nothing to kill these Liberators. We'll probably work in some Stalkers on the backside of this. Actually warped in some Zealots. And the Liberator's trying to search for that mineral line. They're going to siege up, but... yeah, Liberators don't shoot at buildings, so... gonna have to head home now to defend here as this army is moving out from Chem. Liberators chasing. They want to find some fresh meat. Still, the gases have not been taken by Chem. He's got plenty of gas right now, 1,100 banked up. Now rally his army all into one position and looks to move out across the map. Or, excuse me, to the enemy main base once he gets all those in order. 2 Immortals and a bunch of charge lots coming in hot. Depots have not been raised yet. They will charge onto the depot, though. The Stalkers, excuse me, the Zealots and the Immortals continue to move through. There's nothing to shoot up, though. So Chem's got to be very careful with his attack. He's got to move past this danger field, and he will. The Zealots and the Immortals get into the mineral line. Taking out the missile turret now, and SCV is forced to flee from the mineral line. There's barely any minerals left on this mineral line anyway, so there's not really a ton of mining going on for the most part. Zealots are going to get caught, though. Get blocked by their Immortal buddies, and a bunch of them go down. Chem, though, is 35 workers to 12, though. If this attack, even if this attack doesn't succeed, he's definitely going to win this game. on the next one. The Zealot's forced to run again along with that Immortal. Supply Depot's still not raised, so they'll just make it out. Marauders drop down now. The Medivacs finally did come out and help out. Their buddies here, the Warp Prism moving across here. Bunch of Stalkers back at home. I think Chem would like those at the enemy base so he can kill those Liberators and end the game. But now they're hiding here. The enemy third. These last remaining Zealots and Immortals. Now the Medivacs and Liberators moving out, trying to find these guys. They will, but they'll move out of the way just in time here. And the Warp Prism will scatter for now. A couple Stalkers moving across. We'll warp in here at this Warp Prism. Gonna be some more Stalkers. Plenty of Stalkers now to take out these Liberators that have been so pesky. Link on top of them. He's got one, he's got two. Now just 2 Medivacs with 3 Marauders. On the high ground, there's not too much either. There's just really not a lot of resources left for Force, and he's not producing anything out of these production facilities. The Orbital is going to raise, but I'm not exactly sure where it plans to go. Chem moving up now the ramp. He's going to take out 1 supply depot, and this should be the end of the game here. There's just nothing that Force can do. He's got no expansion. He's trying to move this Orbital out. He's trying to move the Starport out. But he's got Stalkers, and he's got a Stargate already built, so he can just build a Void Ray or like anything out of that Starport, and he can pretty much kill those guys, get vision of the high ground, and use the Stalker to shoot down those buildings. Now production village will be taken out for Chem, and this is pretty much GG here. 29 workers to 12, and 15 to 85 supply. And Force will throw out the salty Stalker spam. How original. But in the end, it doesn't matter if you do something original, it only matters if you win. And Chem certainly does win that one in a pretty convincing fashion. A 16-minute game where there were only 3 bases made combined between the 2 players. But Chem had 2, and Force had 1.